So now it's time in the conference where we take a break from the presentations and we have a panel discussion. But this time we're actually inviting some family parenting bloggers onto the stage. So I would like to invite Abby Moore from You Baby Me Mummy, Dominika Rotthaler from Munich with Love in Germany, Tracey Quinn from Love of Living in Ireland, and Sónia Morais Santos from Portugal. And there's some water there, ladies, if anybody wants to. Thank you. Pour a glass. So, ladies, you're all very welcome on the stage and to the panel, and thank you for your participation today. Over the next 45 minutes, we're going to chat about the exciting world of family and lifestyle blogging today, and to get these very intelligent ladies' views and their opinions on a number of topics. So to begin, my first question to everybody is, how did you first get into family blogging? And was it your family that was an inspiration to begin your blog? Okay, so, sorry, I'm going to get comfortable. Okay, so we're going to go with Abby first for that.
Okay, I was off on maternity leave and I got postnatal depression, and I was so paranoid that I would forget these mummy milestones that everyone should remember, like when your kid first smiled, and I was just so paranoid that I'd forget that. So I wanted to remember them somehow, and my daughter just basically slept on me here for pretty much 2 years, I think. Sorry. And she basically slept on me for 2 years, which was awkward to do anything else. But I could get a laptop and lift a laptop up, and so I literally typed in how to start a blog. And that day I started a blog. So it was literally just a place to store memories, and so that I just wanted to have a really rich history, and to have I've hardly got any pictures of me when I was a kid, so not because my family are awful, just because it wasn't done, but I just wanted to have her to be able to look at all this stuff that we did, and I thought my memory was so bad that I'd forget. So that's literally how I started in an afternoon.
And your blog, is it about your family? Is it about lifestyle? Is it a blend of everything? In a quick summary, what is your blog about?
It was lifestyle and family to start with, and it was just that. And now I basically teach other mums to turn their blogs into businesses. Okay. So I still do some family-related stuff, but it's much more focused on helping other mums realise that they can turn their superpower into something that's lucrative as well.
Very good. And Tracey, why did you start blogging?
My mother would call me an oversharer, and she'd say that I love the sound of my own voice, which I kind of always did from a young age. For me, it was when I wanted to conceive, when I really wanted to get pregnant, I started Googling stuff, and you wouldn't want to see my search history back then. But I kept finding blogs, and I was like, what is this? It's a website from a person that's like me, that has something to say about this thing I'm really invested in. So I started reading blogs. I got a lot of my really kind of cherished information and help from blogs. And then when I did get pregnant, I loved telling family and friends about just how I was feeling. And I had an English degree and I loved writing, and I always felt that void was there to be filled. I'd love to write a book, or I had all these dreams. And literally one day I just said, God, wouldn't it be gas now if I just started talking about being pregnant? But who would have any interest in listening? But then I kind of went, but I like hearing about other people. And that's just kind of how it started. It was just 16-week update and me and my little bump, and
And today, now that you've had your son, what's your blog about?
It has grown into be its own sort of animal. It was a pregnancy blog, then a pregnancy blog naturally became a parenting blog. But then I had my own weight loss journey, and I like to include kind of health and healthy eating, my struggles with anxiety. It kind of just became a very narcissistic account of what's going on in my world, and trying to make that appealing to other people in helpful ways, I suppose. So bit of a myriad of everything.
And Sónia, what about you? Why did you start blogging?
Well, I'm a journalist, and I was an editor at the time, 10 years ago, and I was writing much less than I wanted, so I created a blog because I had two kids at the time. Now I have 4. And I wanted to share about the less pink and glittering side of motherhood. So I wanted to say to people, it's normal. Sometimes you feel like you can't stand them anymore. It's normal to not enjoy playing and sometimes to leave and go away. And it's normal and it's okay. And people sometimes feel guilty about it. And I wanted to share that less pink side of motherhood. So people, it was 10 years ago, and people start writing to me saying, thank you, I thought I was a terrible mom. And now I feel more, I'm not alone. I feel I'm not alone. So it was basically that.
And today, 10 years on, do you still write about parenting? Is it more lifestyle? Is it a little bit of both?
It's both.
Okay.
And I started to tell stories about other people. I started making interviews, and I basically do journalism, but in the blog, but still talk about family. Yes.
Very good. And I'm going to give you my microphone, Dominika. And I'll ask you the question. Why did you start? Actually, perhaps you guys could share the mic. Is that okay? Why did you start blogging? What was your inspiration?
Well, speaking about the accent, I have to tell you my little story because I'm a Polish girl living in Germany. And when I came there, everything was quite new. I had my husband who was German, and I was pregnant. I was exploring everything on my own, and there was not so many information about Munich in my Polish language, so I decided to open my own blog and to introduce all this information that I could explore in Polish, and it was something unique at that time. Also being a mother, living as an expat in Germany, in Bavaria, this is something quite special because when Bavarians, they understand that it's like a special region for Germany. And I started exploring the area with my son, and it was more like discovering new locations which are family-friendly, new places which we visited as a family. And then 2 years after and 1 child after, I decided to make another blog, which was From Munich with Love, the German-speaking blog. And I founded this with this idea of having a business concept behind. So the first one was like a hobby, and the second one, the German one, was more like I wanted to have a kind of job and to earn some money for that.
Okay, and hands up between the 4 of you, who has travel as a big part of their blog? So all 4. Because it's what you do, isn't it, when you've got kids? You leave the house and you go off on your travels and you document your journeys and where you've been and where you've stayed. And how do you think travel blogging has changed the travel industry? Because travel blogging is quite new in the last decade, as you said. You were probably ahead of your time, even 10 years ago, starting a blog in Portugal. How do you think that how blogging today has impacted the travel industry as a whole? And I'll come to you, Sónia.
Well, I think when I started the blog, people often ask me, how do you do it with a baby? And I say, well, they eat too, so it's okay. People ask me all about the weather, and I think now people are more traveling with their families than before. Then it was very frightening thing, and so today I think families are traveling a lot, and that changed the industry.
And what
also.
about? So I suppose how I would interpret how blogging has changed and vlogging and social media has changed the family travel business. Like when you are out either staying somewhere or reviewing somewhere, do you find that how the hotel or the restaurant or the place that you're staying, when you either tweet about it or Instagram it or write something from your laptop if you happen to have it, and it's either good or it's bad, does the organisation where you are, the travel place, react there and then? Do they pick up on that news feed? Do they interact with you while you're there, or do they wait until you've gone?
It happened to me both ways. Sometimes they are attent. I don't know. They know me and they know my job, and they are quickly to react.
Does anybody have any really great examples of that, where they were somewhere, they either Instagrammed live something, or they or Facebook live, or they did an Instagram story, or they put something up on their social media and they hashtagged or they tagged the location they were in, and that either the hotel or the location interacted? Martinhal, really wonderful, well done, guys. That's a good one. So while you're here, and that's good, isn't it? Because it's the space is here and now, and you get live reactions, and then your readers can see that how the place where you are is highly interactive with guests. So I suppose that's one of the things that I think has really changed from the travel blogging, that and how people get to consume the media. How do you feel, each of you, and I'll come briefly, how do you feel sharing so many details of your lifestyle and your family and your personal information with your community? So I'll come to you first.
Well, every time when I post something, I think about it twice. If it's an information which is which I can post like publicly, or shall I maybe leave it for myself and for my family? So I still have these thoughts in my head, but actually blogging and being online all the time has changed my life a little bit. I started blogging like with sunglasses, and I didn't show myself. Yes. And now I'm really used to taking selfies and all these things. So I think it changes us a lot, and maybe we don't even notice that, but it's a huge change, like 6 years ago or something till now. And something different.
What about you, Abby? Do you have any issue with oversharing? Do you like to overshare? Is there a line?
I think there is a line. I mean, there's certain images that I would never share. Like even just obviously, when my daughter was little and she was in a nappy, I would never just share that. She would always have to be have clothes on. And also it's just, I just think it's really, I used to always give her, she had a pseudonym. She would never have a proper name. And then it gets to the point where you're like, the world is changing so much. What did you call her? She was just her nickname was Baby. So okay. That's why my blog's called what it is, because, but it gets to the point where, everything's changing so much that she'll have her own YouTube channel by the time she's 10 anyway. So what am I, so I did a vlog where she announced her own name because she was just starting to say it in videos all the time. And
okay.
And
so
now
it was weird when you kept calling her Baby. And what's your daughter's name?
Ava.
And she was going, Mum, it's Ava. And you're like, Baby, I'm Mummy.
I have to edit the videos. But I just think, we can just...
Very good.
As long as you're careful and you don't put schools and that kind of things.
Okay. And Tracey, do you have... Your little boy's called Billy?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if other bloggers in the room can relate to this, but you don't really have to convince yourself to blog. It's either something that you naturally do and you enjoy doing, or it's not. But I think I'm definitely in the category of I don't think about it for 6 months, and then one day I go, oh my God, somebody's going to kidnap my child, and what am I doing? And I'm a terrible mother, and I shouldn't have done that, and it doesn't take a genius to work out where I live, and all that sort of stuff. But it's never quite enough for me to stop. Do you know what I mean? So I would be lying if I said it wasn't something that I'm a little bit cautious of sometimes. Mm-hmm. But in general, the payoff is so great for how much it reaches other people, the realness. Yeah. And part of that realness sometimes is using names or talking about things that aren't very attractive or glamorous and exposing yourself.
You're not writing for the sake of bragging rights. You're writing because it's what comes natural to you on a daily basis. Yeah. And you're documenting your family life and sharing that with other people.
Yeah. And
sometimes if that can help somebody or enrich their life or give them a little piece of advice or a tip, well, then you're looking at the good more than the bad.
Yeah, exactly. It outweighs it, definitely.
And Sonia, any concerns?
When I started, I exposed myself much more than today because I was a little unconscious, and so I did it all the way. But then there come the haters, and so I thought, okay, I'm also writing to those people out there. They are a little mean and say bad things, and I don't want to show them all this. So I start restraining restraining what I publish. And then I have two grown-up kids now, one as 16 and the other as 13, so they basically disappeared from the blog. Because I think
and
they
did they ever comment as they got older to say, "Mom, stop"?
No, they didn't need because I stopped before that.
Okay.
I thought they have their own lives and their own privacy, and it's bad for a mom to say.
I know a couple of my own parenting blogger friends, and they have said they might have multiple children. And one of their children has got to a certain age where she has started to feed back to, and she's hearing in school, her friends' mums are following, and she's hearing information back through school. Yeah. And this particular mum has decided, okay, so I'm going to stop doing that part.
Yes.
And she feels totally in control now and is happy with it.
It was a day that I unburdened the fact that my kid was big and saying bad things to me, and it was an adolescent, and so I wrote that, and I thought you wouldn't like to read about this, so I'm going to stop writing about the grown-ups and just talk about the little ones with their sweet things that they say.
The pink bits.
The pink bits and the bad things also, but they are so little.
Yeah, but
okay.
you have to have balance. You have to have balance because nobody wants to read all the pink or all the doom and gloom. It's about having a bit of both. Why do parent readers follow you? And I'll come to you first, Dominika.
Well, I think I found my niche, and it's somebody who is reading my blog maybe is interested to see the German culture from a different point of view, from a Polish or different point of view. And I write a lot about bilingualism because my children use both languages. So I think it's interesting to know some rules or what do I do in my situation. And I think it's important to find your own niche and
your own voice.
Yeah, your own voice, and this within those small group you reach, small or big group.
And Abby, why do so many people follow you?
I think it's realising that for me that I've done the things that they want to do. So I've had a blog as a hobby and turned it into a business quite quickly, and the majority of my audience want to do the same thing. But I think generally for bloggers it's like the novel that never ends. Like you read a novel and sometimes feel bereft at the end of it because it's finished, because you've got attached to the characters. But that's why I started to read blogs, because it never stopped. I could just read about their lives the whole time.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
So I think, that from my point of view.
Okay. Tracey?
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Abby said there. It's kind of like the people that follow you, and it doesn't matter if you have 100,000 followers or you've got 100 followers, they're invested in you and your story. And it's kind of replaced maybe even entertainment in their lives in some ways. Like maybe they don't get to watch too much television, but when they're outside the school waiting for the kids to come out, they just scroll through your Instagram. I think for me, like if you look at the kind of demographic of people that would follow you and kind of looking at statistics and stuff, it tends to be sort of normal working class people who are just trying to kind of make ends meet, have a normal life, get a holiday once a year, and still want to eat out and have the odd date night. And it's just about sort of showing people how the normal mother can try and make all that happen, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah. Whereas I've other friends, and their kind of target audience might be the more affluent parent, or it might be the parent who's really into fitness or really into travel specifically. But yeah, I think I'd like to think it's people who are a little bit like me, or
And tell me, when I have it, what social media channel works best for you? So is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it Twitter? Snapchat? Which do you get the best engagement from your followers?
Instagram, definitely, particularly in the last while. Also Snapchat, and it's kind of funny because Snapchat in Ireland is very like Insta stories in the UK, but in the UK, like it's funny, I used to do YouTube videos with a company called Channel Mum, and I remember when I met all the girls and I was saying, are you all on Snapchat? And they were like, no, we're doing Insta stories. And I remember thinking, oh God, I need to start doing Insta stories, that's the next thing. But in Ireland, Snapchat is quite popular, and it's daily vlogging. It's just what you're making for dinner and where you got your dishwasher tablets, and just every day like boring stuff that for some reason is enthralling.
Does it when you relate on, say, Snapchat, and you put up something really normal about where you got your dishwasher tablets from, and then somebody screen grabs that, because you get to see all of that in the analytics.
Yeah, it's really funny.
How does that?
Like, it's funny because I follow like the fashion bloggers and like the makeup bloggers, and they're like, this is my new foundation, it's high end, it's Laura Mercier, it's €90, screenshot if you want to like see the product code. Whereas I'm literally doing the same thing with like, balsamic vinegar from Aldi, or, like, I don't know, the new nappy brand. But as you said, you can very quickly go and look at the amount of people that are interested.
You're influencing what?
It's there.
Yeah.
It's there.
And tell me, Sónia, what social media channels work best for you?
Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
I'm not in Snapchat. It's too much for an old person like me. They're always inventing things, and I'm tired.
Yes.
So I started with the blog, and then came the Facebook, and now you have to do the Instagram, and now it's Insta stories. Stop it.
So how
Can't have it anymore.
How do you all keep up? Like, exactly what you just said there. So I use Snapchat because I'm down with the young kids, right? And I'm trying to do it because I'm trying to be relatable. But I also really like it. It's a guilty pleasure. But when they changed their algorithm, I suddenly hated Snapchat overnight. So I woke up the next morning and was like, that's it. I am done with Snapchat. Because this, tool that I had loved and had fallen in love with and got used to using, and I put myself in the same age bracket as you. And I'm like, why did you have to go and do that? So as bloggers, when you wake up on a Monday morning and how you were doing something on a Sunday is suddenly totally different in the social media world, like, are you a hostage to social media?
That's why you should never build your house on rented land.
So what does
all
that
of
mean?
the people should be on your email list. Because there's no point in having followers that are on social media. It counts for it pretty much counts for nothing. They should be on your email list because you can decide to email them when you want to.
But it's interesting you should say that, because that's one of my later questions, but I'm going to jump in now.
Yeah.
So with GDPR coming in at the 25th of May, I'm sure a lot of people in the room are having minor coronary failure, thinking about how they're going to handle all of that. I know I am. So it's in Europe. It's well, and I really hope nobody who really wants to know about GDPR is watching this online. I am not an expert, but my understanding of it is, so you just have to be very, 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 very careful with the data that you are collecting in terms of personal data, email addresses, and how you got hold of that data. And you need to be able to trace it back and to explain if the lawmakers ever come knocking on your door, where you got that information from, how often are you communicating with them, is it regular, do you just send things once a year? If you do, you can't do that. Your database has to be very clean and up to date. And then also, where are you holding that data? And the permission part of it is what's really scary. So there is huge fines coming into place if you breach these laws. It's a European thing. So, for example, you're saying that you communicate with people via email. Are you starting that process now to clean all of that data? And
yeah, so don't get me wrong, I've got social media channels and quite a few followers on them, but I just think Facebook changes its algorithm and everyone loses their mind because they can't reach their clients. Well, they could if they had an email list. So you have to be really explicit with how what they're getting when they opt in. So you can't just say, to get this freebie, like opt in and give me your email. You have to say, and then we will be, tagging your data.
Like a double opt-in.
You're just being really kind of like granular.
Yeah.
And that's fine. So you just get everyone to re-opt in again. And if they don't opt in again, and then they're not engaged anyway. So
and they're
you
not
can just
valuable.
say goodbye anyway.
So I know a lot of people that might
thing.
have, tens of thousands of email addresses, or even hotel resorts that might have hundreds of thousands of email addresses, and they're worried that how their 100,000 may overnight go to 10,000. But you're right, because
quality,
at least those 10,000 want to hear from you. They're engaging with you, because numbers at the end of the day, it's just a number, isn't it? It's all about interaction. And that goes for the blog as well, is people are so hung up on numbers. Like, how many Instagram followers do you have? How many Facebook followers do you have? If the ones that you have are niche and they're responding well to you and they're interested in reading what you have to say, what's your opinion on that?
Well, I do agree that it's not that important how many followers you have. It's the reactions you get from your publicity and from your target group and for people who react with you. I mean, it's all about being authentic, and they trust me when they read my posts. I know they have a special opinion about me, so I try to stay authentic and not to do something just to get the followers, just to make this number higher, because it doesn't bring anything. Right.
And a quick question to all of you very briefly. How often do you update your blog?
How
often?
Every day.
Every day?
Except at weekend, because it's a job, so I have to rest too. So at weekends I try to slow down and live with family and not blog.
Okay. And Tracey?
The physical blog, probably once a week. Used to be a lot more, because
as in the writing,
in the physical writing a blog post, because it's sort of morphed more into microblogging, social media. But Instagram every day, Snapchat every day, Facebook mostly every day.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're kind of always plugged in.
Abby?
I used to be insane and post on my blog between 2 and 4 times a day. And when I had client
full
work,
content.
yeah,
Okay.
like massive posts. And then I found my brain and decided to reduce that amount. And now it's probably 3 times a week.
Okay, so it's safe to say that it
doesn't make
quality
any difference.
over quantity. And do you find that how years of blogging have taught you that you don't need to be like, I need to put something up every hour?
But
it's more researched, well thought out, taking the time, nice photographs.
Say
something. Exactly. Yeah, so don't just say something for the sake of it. Blogging has really increased in the last 5 years. I mean, if you had said to somebody on the street 5 years ago, oh, did you read that blog? I think it's safe to say that a lot of people would say, what's a blog? Now it's in the dictionary. It's part of our human life. We're all talking about the blog that we read yesterday or the one that's come into our newsfeed. How do you stand out from the crowd? And it's a similar question to what I asked earlier, but how do you make yourself stand out from the crowd in such a crowded marketplace with so many travel bloggers and lifestyle bloggers popping up every minute of every day? Sonia?
Due to the fact that I was a journalist, I say it was because I had to give my professional card so I can do publicity. But I feel like a journalist, and I write, and I know how to write. It's what I do for a living. So I think the contents. It's what make my blog different, because I do interviews, I tell stories about people, inspiring people, not only about my family, but also these stories that people look and say, oh, that's so inspiring.
Okay.
I think that's what makes the difference. It's the writing, it's the contents.
And to come back on something that we covered earlier on today, do you think that your audience also consumes their information both online but also offline in print media, given your background in journalism?
Much less. To say to you, I worked in the biggest newspaper in Portugal, which has less visitors, less buyers than what my blog have daily.
Your personal blog?
Yes.
Wow. Congratulations.
So it's creepy.
Where do you see the importance of bloggers in the near future, Tracey? I mean, in the next, say, 12 to 18 months.
Well, even if you think of somewhere like Martinhal, like if you're trying to pitch a resort or you're trying to tell a family that they should go here, I think 10 years ago it would have been like a leaflet, or it would have been like a book or a magazine. Whereas now bloggers have a really strong and professional voice. So I think what's happening now is brands and companies that even might have been reluctant initially to sort of entertain the idea of working with a blogger are now actually thinking, do you know what? This is the way people are consuming information. Yeah. This is the way people... But I think, do you know what? The difference is blogging feels much less deceiving, and I don't mean that in a negative way, than print in some ways, because it's so personal. And if you have an audience that you've sort of grown and that you've sort of naturally developed, they trust you so much that they just take for granted that what you're talking about is true and is real. And I think brands are starting to respect that and realise that. And they'd be mad not to take advantage of it, because it's there for the taking. Mm-hmm. And everybody wins, really, if you think about it.
I'll come back to the question I was going to ask, because you've just touched on brands. So why should businesses collaborate with you on your blog?
I think, going back to what Tracey was saying, it is authentic, and a blogger's audience tends to be much more engaged than, a print publications audience. And, they really do trust what you say. And so why wouldn't you? And I think there's been so many studies that have proven that if people want something now, they go to a blog to find a review on it, or, rather than go to which website or whatever. So it's like you say, it's there for the taking, and they'd be really silly if they don't tap into that, for all bloggers, really.
Okay. And if you were to give a piece of advice to somebody who's starting out blogging, so there's somebody either in the room today or if somebody's watching online, given that how you professionally help people set up blogs now and how to monetize that, what advice would you give them?
I would say it's really important to find and to really know who your ideal reader is. It's not good enough to say, I speak to mums, because mums, there's such a broad mum. Well, my mum's a mum, but if you try to speak to everyone, you end up speaking to no one. But people do, because they're scared to limit the traffic that might come, and it's like, we want everyone, we want to speak to everyone, but you can't. So I know my ideal reader is Daisy. She's 35, she's got 2 kids, she lives in Cornwall. Like, I know everything about her, and I'll write everything to her, because then people resonate with that.
Dear Daisy.
I know, Daisy. But it pays off, because people know that, so I think it's really knowing and not being afraid to go niche and having that niche market, because you don't want to be the pound shop, you want to be Harrods or something like that, don't you?
Well, there's somebody in the audience today that can help you with Harrods. A lot of people think that blogging is an easy way to make money online. Do you have some tips for those people who are interested in making money from their blog, to monetize it? Because it's lovely to be able to document your daily life. But, at the end of the day, it is an opportunity to have it as an income. So what's the best advice you have for somebody?
Well, I think a lot of people do underestimate the time you need to invest in your blogging activities, and they think they can just, like, in 5 seconds become rich, and it doesn't happen just like that. So you just still need to think, and blog post you write a lot of hours, maybe you need to write it in a correct way also to promote it. So please do think that you still need to have some time afterwards to take care of it. And do reconsider the name, like in my case, From Munich with Love, I'm living now in Frankfurt. It's not the best name for the blog.
I mean, so would you go back and rename your blog if it didn't have any impact on your brand and your SEO?
I would probably have chosen a different name.
Would you? Yeah, I would. Would you?
I'm all right with my name.
Sónia, would you?
Definitely.
That's interesting. 3 out of 4 of you would rename your blog. Interesting.
Just to add to the
just
money
out of
thing,
experience,
I would say diversify as well. Don't be afraid to diversify, because bloggers tend to think the only thing that they can do is work with brands. But I've got 11 income streams that come into my business. So, but they think, oh, maybe brands and maybe affiliate income, and that's it. But I think then when the brands dry up, or if it's the quiet time for brand work.
So what are some of the other examples?
So, my book.
Okay.
So I wrote a book in 90 days, and it was number 1 bestseller in 3 categories on Amazon. It even was higher than Gary Vaynerchuk for about 3 hours. But 3 hours, I'll take it. Consultancy. I've got a membership community which brings in a few £1,000s a month, where people pay me a monthly fee to get training and access to all my courses. Also sell courses, workshops, countless other things. Obviously, brand work. Speaking, loads of other things. Okay. There's 11, so just don't be afraid to do other things.
To do other things, not
within,
just
within your niche.
To look for different revenue streams. How has blogging changed the world? Sorry, how has the blogging world? That's another question. I will ask that in a minute. But how has the blogging world changed since you started? So, Sónia, I'll come to you. It's 10 years you started your blog. So, as I mentioned earlier, you were nearly ahead of your time in Portugal. And over that last decade, what are the big changes you've seen?
Today, there is a blog in every corner because people, like you were saying, think that it's very easy. And I'm glad to hear that people think that outside too, because I thought it was a Portuguese thing. So, okay. I'm glad, or not. It's sad, but it's not true. We have to work, like you say. We have to pick the good picture. Sometimes it's heavy and it doesn't go, and we have to write well without giving errors and all that. But besides the lots of blogs that appeared, people in fact think that it is a job now. It's considered.
So it's a recognized professional.
It's a recognized profession, yes.
Yeah, it's not just a hobby.
Yeah.
And where do you see it going in the future, Tracey? The world of blogging.
I think people are going to be in school with their guidance counsellor saying they want to be a blogger. I think it's becoming a very normal sort of package in terms of a professional career. I think it's going to be a lot more video. I think as consumers of media, we're getting lazier and we want the information or the emotion to happen quicker. So anything that we can, as I said, look at in the car, waiting for the kids to come out of school, anything that we can, like I'm back to clothes washing again, I'm so boring, but I can't put my clothes on the clothes horse without something playing in the background. It's usually a YouTube video. I want to be learning something all the time. Okay. And I can multitask and listen, but I can't multitask and read. So I think it's going to be more video.
Is that a millennial thing that you have to be consuming?
Probably
information all the time?
It's a nosiness thing. Like if you follow somebody,
you are
on
the
YouTube,
nosy neighbour.
Yeah, you don't want to miss something that's going on with somebody that you're invested in. So
I'm going to use a phrase here to make me sound like I'm really young. Is a FOMO? That's the fear of missing out.
Probably is a little bit of FOMO.
Bit of FOMO.
Yeah, or just trying to liven up the housework and just hear about whoever's in Dubai doing whatever they're doing.
Okay, so we've only a few moments left. I'm going to ask you each very briefly, what is the most challenging moment in your blogging journey so far? And I will come to you first, Dominika.
It's probably the one that I've already mentioned, relocating from Munich to Frankfurt with this strange name and rebranding inside of the blog with the content, because I had to change a little bit my way of thinking.
And you, Abby?
I don't think I have a single most challenge. Every day is a challenge. I've got a 5-year-old and she's mental. So every day is a challenge to just, when you wear loads of hats, it's a challenge, isn't it, to know. And I think some days I'm a bit of a rubbish mom and a bit of a better businesswoman, and the other ways. And it might even be hour by hour. And I think that's a challenge.
And Tracey? The most challenging?
Mine is easy. So because I'm an oversharer and it feels unnatural to not share everything, a lot of you won't know, but there is a television program called Don't Tell the Bride, where your husband is given a certain amount of money and he plans your wedding. That's how I got married. So that was last year, and basically I applied for a show for the Crack and they picked me, and we got married in a football stadium at a football pitch, and I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement for about 6 months that I couldn't talk about it. And for 1 month I had to come offline. So I think a lot of people thought I probably passed away. So, yeah, and then I had to pretend. I just hopped back on the internet and was like, morning. And I was like, where were you?
Where have you been?
That was the ultimate thing you would want to share, but couldn't. But then national television shared it with the country.
I heard this funny thing on Facebook a few weeks ago, and it was... the way we over-threaten our children and we say, that's it now. If you're not good, you're not going on that play date on Friday. So, or you're not getting that iPad on Saturday. And somebody had suggested that the best one to do was just to tell them that the phone charger or the iPad charger was now gone, and to watch the blood drain out of their face so they couldn't charge their device over. So I imagine that was like what that was like for you,
that was kind of like my non-negotiable. I was like, what do you mean I can't talk about it?
Finally, we've only 2 minutes left. And I'm sorry not to have come to you with that question, but I do want to ask this one. Is there anything that I'm leaving out that you would like to bring up with the audience in the live stream today about the world of blogging? Have I not covered anything? Is there something that you would like to address to either the audience? Alternatively, I can go for a quick question. Anything that you would like to say?
I would just say it's amazing. It literally, my book's called Blogs Change Lives, and it just has. So there's no doubt about it. To me, it's like I could talk all day about how much how amazing blogging is and what a difference it can make to... My daughter's been away abroad more times in her 5 years than I had, in the first 30 years of my life. So It is just
It's
the
brought
best
joy
thing,
to your life.
And you meet people that are the most amazing people. Like my best friends are people I've met through blogging. So it's
and I've heard
genuinely
that
the
said a
best
few
thing.
times actually from different bloggers that I know. We've just a minute left, but does anybody have a burning question that they would like to ask any one of our panel members? Don't be afraid. No? Nobody? Okay, well, with that in mind, I would like to thank you all for your time on the panel this afternoon. I've enjoyed getting to know each one of you a little bit more. I'm sure everybody here has enjoyed listening to the world of blogging and family travel and why you started and how you can monetize it and to clear up any discrepancies, I suppose, about the world of blogging. And thank you so much.
Thank you.